Alright, y'all, I'm gonna make a multi-part series explaining what the fuck happened to me 2 years ago. So, spirit talk and witch talk, y'all better fucking pay attention, y'all. For the longest time, I've been a lucid dreamer. But when I was 6 years old, I started becoming really consciously aware of my dreams. Age 12, I actually started actively controlling them. Now, here's where things get weird and kind of blurry because it gets really fucking confusing. There were a certain series of dreams that I had when I was lucid dreaming where suddenly everything became super realistic. The thing was, I was a different person because I was a decade older or so. I looked different, I looked like how I do now, even though I was dreaming about it at age 11. Now, in these dreams, there was a series of checkpoints that I started calling them, which is a series of visual cues and synchronicity where I had to remember a certain pattern and do a certain type of thing correctly to be able to pass and wake up. Here's where things get fucking weird that actually became real life, so get ready for part 2.
Hello and welcome to part 2 of me being stuck in a time loop. If you have not seen part 1, please watch beforehand because it's going to make a lot more sense. 2018, I dated this guy, broke up with him, and he told me that he had HIV. So that entire spiel was fucking horrendous. Before y'all worry, I did end up testing negative, so I didn't have to worry about that, because apparently fucking him would have fucked me over. Now, here's where things get weird. I was hanging out with a friend afterward, that weekend, and when we got, very, very, very high on the marijuana, okay? I don't get high all that often, but when I did in this case, it actually, reversed the world on me. Suddenly, I remember being upside down, staring up at a television screen when I was 6 years old at my grandparents' place. The TV show that was on at the moment was actually Ember Chamberlain, and I started being able to cycle and know exactly to the frame of when she would cut. And that night, I had a dream that I saw when I was 10 years old, seeing my own silhouette. Like from part 3.
Hello and welcome to part 3 of I Am Stuck in a Time Loop. Guys, this is where things get crazy. So I did this dude that I'm gonna call Joe and did this friend that I'm gonna call Doug for the longest time. They got together and broke up 5 times in 4 weeks, which is totally stable, and I got stuck in the middle of all of that. So I ended up finally realizing, wow, this is totally, absolutely toxic after coming to the dude and confronting the guy that I'm gonna call Alex for the longest time. Didn't work out. It's great. So I ended up dating this other dude that I'm gonna call Xander. Now this dude Xander was a total stoner the entire time. So I started hanging out with him. We got a crazy connection. And every time that I was out at his place, I realized something is different about him. I recognized the pirate flag on his wall and the light and stuff like that. Maybe this is from a dream. Oh, it was. It's called déjà vu, which means dreamt again. Like for part 4, because things get crazy from here.
Hello and welcome to part 4 of I Was Stuck in a Time Loop. Before I mention something, I have 2 things I need to tell you guys. Number 1, what I'm telling you is an actual genuine experience that happened to me. I've actually recorded evidence of what happened, and I will be revealing it as things go on. Second, I want you to start tagging your favorite creators so that they can get a hold of this story, especially in one of the scientific community. If we could get Hank Green involved in this, that would be fantastic. Now, onward with the story. I told you that I was dating that dude that I'm going to call Xander, right? Yeah, so at one point, the last 5 days of 2018, we decided to hang out, right? 5 days at his place, getting high, obviously, and hanging out. And this is where things started getting really weird. Instead of them being oh, maybe this thing was a dream because déjà vu started happening again, it actually started becoming challenges. I have literally no other way to put it but that. There was a series of objectives that I had to start completing, and if I did, I had to take a screenshot on my watch and I started calling that a checkpoint. Think of it like a save point. I'll make a footnote explaining checkpoints, like for part 5.
Hello and welcome to the footnote for part 4 of me being stuck in a time loop. What is a checkpoint? So this is something that is very, very important because this is actually mandatory to understand. December 27th, 2018, I started talking to myself about the stuff as my dreams started becoming real. I remember at one point thinking about the really old race car games from the console games that we had. And I realized I can take screenshots on my watch, my Apple Watch here, to be able to take a screenshot to remember the exact time when I passed a test. A test basically is literally just anything at all that I had to complete. So it could be minor things like watching a movie, getting something set up, eating breakfast, or something bigger like passing the day at work. Very, very, very important thing about this is I had at least 4,300 by the end of last year. Because in my brain, if something failed, I would be able to go back to the last save point, okay?
Hello and welcome to part 5 of I'm Stuck in a Time Loop. So as many of you guys have probably suspected, I was running a lot of theories on what was happening. Do keep in mind, this is still only about 2018, and 2019 gets even weirder. And as one person commented, I only talk about things getting weirder. Trust me, this is scene by scene of what happened. Taking a very, very observational approach here. One of the weirdest things that happened to me in 2018 was this New Year's Eve's party. Now before the entire day and the entire 5-day sequence that was happening, things were kind of, not just off and on, but I was like, whoa, look, this is probably like a dream. That's kind of cool. Okay, that's interesting. I would be seeing the same sequence of details, scene by scene, second by second, passing all these checkpoints to be able to just continue on with my life. This New Year's Eve party was entirely different. For the first time, I actually realized I've actually been here before, and I know everything that happened. Obviously, there were still checkpoints and still things, but now came the challenge of finishing the day. I'll make a footnote about this, so like for part 6. Hello and welcome to part 5's footnote of what is Déjà Rêvé. So when I was at the New Year's Eve party, I started doing research on what the hell was happening to me. I came across 3 main theories. Number 1, it's a cosmic trial, which is just very daunting and totally takes a lot of skepticism to believe in. Number 2, the most obvious thing is Occam's razor. I'm very, very, very high right now. And in theory, that should have been the case, but as you'll see later on, I was entirely sober, and then it kept happening for months, which means it wasn't just a weird reaction that I had, something else was happening in my psyche altogether. Last one was the one that actually was the observational thing that I was having. My dreams were repeating themselves in real life, a decade after I had dreamt them. These dreams were lucid dreams where I had to control the exact event and finish something called checkpoints to be able to wake up. If I didn't, I would have to literally repeat that same sequence over and over again until I got it right. And in the waking world, I had to do that sequence perfectly, one time, one shot. We're up to 18 hours a day. Hello and welcome to part 6 of I Am Stuck in a Time Loop. Congratulations, Tony, you have survived 2018. This means probably this weird experience is gonna go, right? Wrong. So instead, New Year's Day was the first time that I encountered one of my nightmares. Here's the situation. I got dropped off at King Station in Seattle to head home. I live outside of Seattle, like a few cities over, so it makes sense to take the train. Yeah, the trains apparently don't go on New Year's Day. And the nightmare that I had was being dropped off and stuck, lost, abandoned, and having to find a way home with no actual real information or way to get back. This is also the first time that I encountered a repeat, which I'll explain in the footnote. As things started getting weirder, I realized this is actually a real nightmare of mine that I had when I was like 6 years old. Keep in mind, I used to use lucid dreaming as a way to cope with nightmares. So this was actually like horrifying for me. I did end up getting a bus ticket and heading home though, so it was fine. I did pass the trial, but oh good god, like for part 7. Hello and welcome to the footnote for part 6. What is a repeat? Repeat is a moment in Déjà Rêvé when you start realizing you've had alternate versions of something before. Let's use the example of New Year's Day. Because this was the first instance of this, in all my dreams beforehand, they were just normal dreams. Hence in 2018 when all this started, things were normal. They were fine. I mean, maybe a little bit weird because I used like lights to count and learn mathematics, but whatever, that's new. No, instead, a repeat is what happens when you realize you have choices to make and now you have tests that you have to pass. Which means suddenly the decisions you make have a very serious consequence. I got stuck in King Station because there's no trains going back for New Year's Day, meaning I'm stuck here in Seattle and I can't get home. One of the decisions that I tried to make in that dream was starting to walk and I ended up crying and I gave up. That was a failure. The dream, I actually ended up going back the next night to finish the dream, which was taking the bus. Trying to remember that and then also living through it again in 2019 is a repeat. So by taking the bus, I was able to get home. Don't mind the spooky lighting, but hi, welcome to part 7 of I'm Stuck in a Time Loop. It is now January 2019, and finally, the drugs are starting to wear off. Which means, after about 10 days of it going back and forth, and all of January, it's finally fading away. I'm no longer having my life be real dreams anymore. Nope. So now, it's the end of the month. And I have an art gallery that I need to go to. I got accepted to go there because they liked my Instagram picture, so they were like, hey, why don't you go up here and go sell some stuff? Yeah, that was a huge ripoff, and when I arrived there, I didn't sell anything. But the thing that freaked me out more than anything else was when I arrived at the parking lot, I realized, oh god, Tony, is this the art gallery dream? Like an actual, real dream that you had. Irrefutable proof, you're entirely sober right now, and you're dreaming about this. Yeah. It was. And because of that, I realized whatever's happening is still going. Oh boy, life of part 8. Hi, and welcome to part 8 of I Am Stuck in a Time Loop. Now, January ended, drugs have finally worn off, THC is now out of my system, and I have to work at a photography studio. I had worked there before and had a falling out with a person, simply put because he's a very, very, very controlling old man that keeps thinking that everything is from the 1980s. It's not, it's been a while. But that's aside the point. The big thing is, because I started working there, I started realizing, okay, what is the thing going on and why is it still happening to me? Crazier still, I also started up a new YouTube channel at the time, and when I was doing this, I uploaded a video which felt very, very important to me for some reason. It's about Lyrebird, which is about the automation thing I saw from Shane Dawson video. Shortly afterward, once I posted that, there was a school that I went to do a basketball team. I don't know how this showed up, but underneath my brain, I don't know how else to describe that, a dream kind of popped up and rose to the surface. From there on out, it started becoming more frequent, so for part 9. Hi, and welcome to part 9 of I'm Stuck in a Time Loop. January and February were the slowest months of the entire year. From here on out, it just gets fucking crazier. I'm going to jump to mid-March 2019 for St. Patrick's Day. I decided to hang out with my friend Georgia Grimm in Seattle to film some videos for our YouTube channels. And when we were there, St. Patrick's Day weekend, we also decided to get high, because as we saw previously, getting high induced these weird déjà vu moments, and they seem to also amplify. But as I had said before, being sober meant that it was still happening, and I'd been sober for weeks beforehand. I decided to get high on, I think, 2nd Avenue and just start taking a walk. And one of the weird things for me was I realized I had a companion in my dreams. In certain dreams in Seattle, there was a voice always next to me. I didn't know who it was. Turns out it was my friend Georgie. This is the first time I experienced a shared dream, and I'll explain what this is in the footnote when I go into detail about it. Guys, get ready for part 10. Hello and welcome to the footnote for part 9. I am stuck in time. Who is Georgie Grimm? Georgie has been a friend of mine for a couple of years now. We actually met each other in 2017 in January during winter quarter of my junior year at university. She's a theater major. She also is my former roommate. The weird thing about all of this is when we met, we realized we were in the exact same dorm room on the exact same side of the bed, just 1 year apart. So we ended up also becoming friends because of the weird, stupid shit that happens to me all the time. On these walks that we went on in Ellensburg, which I will start describing as the walk, a lot of these had weird shit happen to us. Most common one is lights blowing out. And by this, I mean, you would ask a question and the light would turn off. I will be explaining the details of these walks because a lot of the stuff that you'll see keeps happening because both of us are around each other. In 2019, Georgie literally saw everything that happened, and I will be providing details on this in future installments of this series. Hi, and welcome to part 10 of I'm Stuck in a Time Loop. Oh boy, we're gonna get to the weird part here. So it's now St. Patrick's Day, and George and I are filming some videos for our YouTube channels. One of the things about this path that we were going on is something that I used to call the walking game when I was a kid. The walking game was a series of dreams that I had. They actually continued all the way until I was in college, where I was on a walk. There was debris, there were choices I had to make, but the weird thing was the actual place where I put my next step determined a lot. There was one way that I had to be able to do this right. And remember, this is all from dreams, and it became real. March 17th was also the first time that I experienced déjà vu for longer than 12 hours. I had it for 18 hours from being awake. This means I saw 18 hours of my dreams in real life. And as I come to discover, they were dreams from different ages. Like one sequence was from when I was 6, another was when I was 11. Since the walking game becomes very important for future installments, I'll explain it in the footnote. For part 11. To show you guys what the walking game is, I'm gonna actually go on a walk myself in this awesome park that I'm in. When you were on a walk, the steps that you were on actually matters. Literally, the positioning of where you put your foot actually changes the course of all of history. It may seem confusing, but think about it in terms of the butterfly effect. Walking too quickly will make you burn out, but going too slowly will add up too much time. Walking dreams are the same way. Whenever you have these types of dreams, you literally have to start making right decisions. What I do is something called visual cues. I don't know the word for it, so I just made this word up. Basically, look for certain patterns, like, do you see this giant daffodil right here? My brain says big daffodil. Right next to it is yellow tree. over there is mountain. In dreams, if you are literally in motion, look for visual cues. And if those dreams are recurring, start memorizing the patterns for them. In Seattle on the waterfront, I literally remember seeing pink shirt, brown shirt, green shirt. In other words, things that you can remember and can recall very quickly. So if you experience déjà vu, look for the same patterns and then just follow the same path. Hi, and welcome to part 11 of I'm Stuck in a Time Loop. We're going to jump right into this. The week after St. Patrick's Day, I went over to Whidbey Island to hang out with Georgie at her parents' beach house. The parents invited me over and I was like, fuck yeah, that sounds awesome. Let's go hang out with them. Yeah, so the moment that I arrived at Whidbey Island, I started recording some YouTube videos. I'm glad that I did because I now have video evidence of what happened and I can actually show you guys what happened in the footage. But that's for a later date. The big thing right now is that evening we decided to get high because that's apparently what happens whenever I hang out around Georgie. Prior day I had been having like really weird anticipation for some big thing happening, I don't know what. So by the time that we got high and started talking about the center of the world and spirituality and blah, 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 we ended up going on this walk. This walk that I went on, first of all, the peripheral vision of mine was actually of Los Angeles itself, and I'll explain what that is when I get to VidCon. The other big thing is there's a perfect exact angle that I had seen before that wasn't just from a dream. I literally remember waking up and seeing that in my after image of my dream when I woke up when I was 11. Hi, and welcome to the footnote for part 11. Guys, so right after we decided to get high and go on that walk, which was definitely very surreal. By that I mean suddenly I was able to convince Georgie and myself, probably because we were high, to turn off the highness in certain senses, which meant that I was able to basically perceive the world as a simulation and hear outside of the noise in my brain. This is probably just because my brain's able to work this way, but I was actually able to literally hear the world completely clearly, but have my eyesight be blurry, or vice versa. Anyway, so after when we got back, we decided to order pizza and watch some stuff. Now, the dream itself that I had for this was one where I was floating in space, which, you know, makes sense in Déjà Vu because I looked outside at one point, it was completely blackout because the Puget Sound is there. But the creepiest part was this nightmare I started having. I talked about repeats before, but one of them this time was folding a blanket on the bed. Literally, if I did it wrong, George's mom would have looked at me and shaken her head and would have had to do it over again. Hello and welcome to part 12 of I'm Stuck in a Time Loop. Jumping right into it, right after I decided to hang out with Georgie on Whidbey Island, the next day I decided to drive around and see what was around the island. We were originally going to Port Townsend, but because of just how circumstances was, we would have had to wait about 2 hours. So we decided to wander around the beach. And I'm glad that I did because we ended up stumbling upon Fort Casey. Instead of getting like a parking permit to be able to go to, you know, a national park, we ended up just kind of wandering up the back end of Fort Casey. This is, again, one of those dreams that I had. I called this the castle dream because it was this area with all this concrete and stuff like that. Also, before I forget, there is a video that has all of this and I'll leave a link to it down below. Well, anyway, the creepiest part about this was actually underneath when we started walking through everything. I don't believe in ghosts nor spirits, but there was an area that was haunted. One of the areas that I went to actually was a nightmare of mine. It had all these gears and weird things, and I'll show you the footage of that later on. From here on out, like I said, it only gets creepier. So, like for part 13. Hi, and welcome to the footnote for part 12. This shit is creepy, so get ready. Most nightmares that I had that became déjà vu were usually really intense feelings. Feelings of being lost, being abandoned, so on and so forth. But the one that actually started getting to me was one about death. At Fort Casey when I was at, there was this one area where we started walking through this like kind of abandoned area. Obviously it was open to the public, but when we were wandering through, I at one point got separated from the rest of the people. You guys need to remind me to show you the footage, but later on when I was there, I was at one point in this weird abandoned room. And I thought that I was dead. Like, in the dream, I was dead, and I was actually in hell. Mind you, I was raised Christian, so you can see the religious background here. But I actually died and went to hell. This is going to be an ongoing theme for the rest of Whidbey Island, which is, what if this isn't just dreams? What if this is something different entirely? From a spiritual context, it might be death, but scientifically, it might be time. Hello and welcome to part 13 of I'm Stuck in a Time Loop. As I said last week, I want you guys to share this video in particular with your favorite creators and your friends. Especially anyone in the scientific community or the spiritual community, because I feel like both sides of the coin would probably like what's happening to me right now. From here on out, March 2019 onward is when the weirdest part of this story actually starts happening. Anyway, onward with the story. So, after Fort Casey, we ended up going to Port Townsend to hang out, have lunch, and then just have fun. Obviously, as expected, everything there was a dream. Now at this point, I'm starting to realize something pretty significant's happening here. Why is everything dreams to me now? Why is everything becoming substantial, like big moments? Why am I having to pass checkpoints for 18 hours a day now? On top of that, why do I feel like I've died before? I'm not even talking like a past life. I'm talking I have died and been at this exact moment previously. You'll see why in the footnote afterward. Hello, and welcome to part 14 of I'm Stuck in a Time Loop. Okay, so after Whidbey Island, things started getting completely crazy for me. I already talked about this before, that back in January, I felt like I was having déjà vu, like every once in a while for like some big event or something like that. Yeah, well now this has changed. The rules, whatever this is, shifted to every single day for upward of 12 to 15 hours a day. Basically from within about 15 minutes of me being awake to when I go to sleep. I was now living my dreams again. I want to clarify something. None of this was prophecy or like being able to foresee the future. I'm just like reliving the dream that I had dreamt before. Which is crazy because when I was working in a photography studio, we had to go to like sports and schools and things like that. And I knew all those schools. Furthermore, I kept thinking that I was taking like a tour of Washington. Like I was touring my area before I have to move elsewhere. I'll discuss that in the footnote later on. Also, there was this weird urge to quit what was happening, but if I knew if I did, things would end. Hi, and welcome to part 15 of I Am Stuck in a Time Loop. Okay, let's talk about that feeling of quitting like I discussed. Because I was working at a photography studio, I ended up starting to work pretty long hours doing things that I'm not comfortable doing. Example was doing solo visits to like schools to take pictures and having things go wrong. In all of this, because every single day now is from a dream, now I'm kind of freaking out because there's this new feeling. This feeling is quitting. By quitting, I mean literally if I fail or if I just drop it, there is this very, very, very bad urge that says something very bad is going to happen. So I was looking at finishing the day. This phrase is something that I started hearing in my head because it was what I was telling myself to complete the day. It means finish it. It's going to end well, but you have to do it now. There is no more passive dreaming. Every single day is active here and now. Hi guys, and welcome to part 16 of I'm Stuck in a Time Loop. Someone was annoyed that I was zooming in too much, so I'm just going to one-take this, okay? Here's the situation. When I was dealing with April, one of the weird things for me was I was dealing with suddenly new experiences. This in particular is actually something that I'm going to have to start calling prophecy or foredreaming. Foredreaming, by the way, is just an old English verb, but what it means is it's dreamt before. So in this case, what I was dealing with was not only was I seeing like my dreams in real life on a daily basis, but now I'm starting to see future events, and I literally mean future events. I knew the place to go to for VidCon for the housing because all I did was I kind of looked into the picture, and if it aligned with my dream, I could look in the environment. Well, I found the exact housing to go for, which is going to get very creepy when I talk about it about July. But guys, prophecy is a new thing for this, and it gets weird. So what is a foredream? Okay, this is something that I'm going to have to distinguish from a lot of other types of dreams, which I'll have to talk about in the future. But a foredream is going to be a very, very, very certain type of what I'm going to have to call a prospective dream, literally a foreseeing dream. A foredream, in the case of what I'm seeing in the context of déjà vu, as this is now my daily status, is it's a moment that can almost predict what will come based on future dreams. So in my case, when I was dreaming of these events for like VidCon, one of the ones was looking for the right housing. And when we were going in real time last year, when we were looking for the right Airbnb, I would be testing to see which one would be the right one. By testing, I mean literally looking for repeats. There were several of them that weren't the right option, but the one that I found, I just knew flat out it was the right one to go to, that this one would connect to other future dreams. So the pattern would continue. This is a foredream. It's predictive style of dreaming. Hello, welcome to part 17 of I'm Stuck in a Time Loop. I am jumping to May 2019 to talk about Forlorn, which was a series that George and I filmed for my channel about visiting different ghost towns in Central and Eastern Washington. Basic lowdown of it was we were really crazy inspired by Shane Dawson's, multi-part series about hauntings and ghosts and other weird stupid shit.
And we realized, I want to do this on my end because VidCon's coming up and I want something big to work on. So we ended up filming in 6 different counties in like 3 days, filming all these different haunted sites. And for you guys, there is a link to the video down below. It's a 2-part series, so I will just have part 1. I will be talking about all these things that happened sequence by sequence, including giving you guys extra footage, because what happened that day, especially the first day and the second day, I can't explain. It's just manifestation of something bigger.
Hi, and welcome to part 18 of I'm Stuck in a Time Loop. So, let's talk about Govan, Washington, the schoolyard that we went to. Govan, Washington is this abandoned schoolhouse that George and I visited. And when we went there, because of how it was and that there was a murder that happened in this like tiny little town of like 100 people, it seemed like a big deal. Well, we went there and obviously I recorded things, and given that I'm me and I'm weird, I knew everything from dreams before. These dreams were early, which is different than before, because most of my dreams are usually about like age 11. This was age 6, which check out the pattern and you'll see how why. The thing for me that I saw that was weird was this memory box. It was this box that you'll see in Forlorn. I literally just found this random thing that had all these like memories for something for someone who died. It's very freaky, and I'll have a video footage of stuff later on to show you extra details.